A person stands at a wooden podium on a small stage, wearing a beaded vest over dark clothing. The background is dark, with soft lighting illuminating the speaker against it.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 10-Minute Voices. I encourage you to come in and have a seat and join us. We're just about to get started with our 1 o'clock program. The 10-Minute Voices is part of the Core Discovery 2 Traveling Lewis and Clark exhibit. It's a multi-agency exhibit, with the National Park Service being the lead agency. But if you spend some time here today, if you go to the keelboat, for instance, you talk to members of the Army Corps of Engineers. If you go to the dugout canoe, you talk to someone from the Bureau of Reclamation. So it's a multi-agency exhibit, and it's a multi-partnership exhibit. Here in the 10-Minute Voices, we have a wide variety of presenters that share with us a wide variety of perspectives, both on the Lewis and Clark expedition itself, but also we like to hear from the people, from the descendants of the people that were living there long before Lewis and Clark arrived. We like to hear from these indigenous or American Indian nations to share their story, their perspectives. And that's what we have today with our 1 o'clock program. We have Howard Boas, who is an enrolled member of the Crow Nation. He's going to share some of his people's history and culture. Howard is an oral historian, has been learning his history and culture of his people since he was 6 years old. So we're very privileged to have him here. Let's give him a warm welcome to the 10-Minute Voices.
A person wearing a tan ranger hat and gray uniform shirt stands at a wooden podium, holding a microphone. They are positioned in what appears to be an indoor venue with wooden paneling visible in the background.
Okay, you got me on? Oh, okay. All right, thank you. I want to thank the National Park Service for allowing me to come here to speak with you and talk to you about the history of the people who were here when Lewis and Clark came. One of the things that people don't see in the diaries of the Lewis and Clark and stuff like that there was people here, there was culture, there was societies, there was religion. All of that was here, and it's all basically the same as the stuff that Lewis and Clark brought here, and Jesuit priests and other religions that brought religion to the Crow people afterwards. But anyway, I'm an enrolled member of the Crow tribe of Indians.
A person with white hair sits at a table wearing a light blue short-sleeved shirt with a burgundy and white geometric pattern across the chest. Behind them is a projected image of a bridge structure.
And at the age of 6 years old, I was designated by a Crow Indian elder named George Washington Hogan. And when you go down on the Crow Nation, you will find many Washingtons, you will find many Lincolns, and things such as this, because at that time the Indian people named almost all of their children after a president or somebody that was very, very important. So you find them types of names down there. But Mr. Hogan, when he adopted me, that does not mean that I left my family and went to live with the Hogan family. Whoops. My outfit fell off here. My speaker fell off in the back of my belt. But anyway, when Mr. Hogan, when he adopted me, I became a member of the Hogan family. So I had, so I had two families to bring me up. And when Mr. Hogan adopted me, he asked my parents if I could be brought up as an oral historian. So I've studied oral histories all of my life, plus the written histories. I've put together a library of around 800 books on the Crow Indian people and the other Indian tribes of Montana. And and thousands of loose leaf pages. I don't know. I got so much I don't even know what I have anymore. But anyway, when he asked me to do this, then in Crow tradition, then he designated 2 people that would be my tutors when I was very young. And one of the people was Robert Sumner Yellowtail, who was actually the first American Indian that became a superintendent of a tribe of Indians in the United States. And he was and Mr. Yellowtail came back, and he became the superintendent of the Crow tribe of Indians. And the other person who he designated was Robert Summers Howe, who was my mother's older brother. So I had a clan uncle and an uncle who were my teachers. And these gentlemen would take me out and through the hills and stuff, and I can remember now, in the 40s and 50s, man, we were still driving Model A's and old junker cars and stuff such as that, rattle trapping around the hills. And these guys would take me along and say, this is what happened here on this hillside. Come and look at these rocks and this rocks.
A person wearing a light blue polo shirt with a geometric patterned vest stands in profile, looking toward the left. Behind them is a dark banner with partial gold text visible. A brass lamp or stand is visible on the left side.
This marks a prayer site or a battle site, or it's a trail marker or something such as this, And so I've actually spent most all of my life hiking the hills and looking toward. My friend Mike Penfold here goes with me all the time anymore because I lost all my peripheral vision, so I only have central vision. Also, they don't allow me to drive. But so Mike here, he takes me all the time, but anyway, we go out and we find the paintings and stuff around here. We visit paintings here that have been carbon dated at 1,000 years old. So there was a culture, there was and that was here a long time. We walked the trails. We have a highway system today. The Indian people had a highway system. One of the main highways is just right out here, just west of Great Falls. It goes from Alberta, Canada to New Mexico. And all you do is you follow little piles of rocks all the way. One of the things that's always very interesting to me is that I believe that the Indian people got along a lot better before the white men came along, before they was being pushed into smaller groups, because in our beliefs, no one owns the land. The land is there for everybody, and the land is there to take care of everybody. In our structure of life, our structure of life as a family is a family structure, because I pray to my father, the sky. I pray to my mother, the earth. I pray to my grandfather, the sun. I pray to my grandmother, the moon. These are the things that brought us into this life and this earth. They're the ones that brought us up. They tutored us. They taught us. They fed us. They took care of us. So our way of life and our religion was our family and our earth, our sky, our sun, our moon. It's like my father, the sky, he looks over my mother, the earth. He showers with rain. My mother, the earth, brings up the green grasses, the trees, whatever it takes to feed us, or to feed the animals that we are going to consume. Without it, our grandfather, the sun, without our grandfather, the sun.
A person wearing a light blue polo shirt with a geometric design stands indoors, speaking. Behind them is a dark banner with partial gold text visible. A brass lamp is visible to the left.
This could not happen because we need the sunlight to take care of it. But we need time to rest. So our grandmother, the moon, she watches over us while we rest at night, so that we can get ready for our new life that begins in the morning. Because in our Crow tradition, our lives are one day at a time. A life is one day at a time, and it is for all of us. Yes, we always plan for the future, but our life is still only one day at a time. And so this is how our belief in our culture was. And this was a belief in a culture that was going on at the time when Lewis and Clark came up through the Missouri River. I drew this map right here. This map right here. This is Mandan right here. And I drew this map off in Crow Indian oral stories. I drew it off of the information that was given by Sits in the middle of the land when he signed the 1826 treaty at Mandan with the United States government. That was the first treaty that the Crow Indian people ever signed with the United States government. So when they signed this treaty, the general, he says, well, Sits in the middle of the land, he says, where do you live? How can I find you if I need to contact you? Because the 1826 treaty, it didn't say, I'm going to give you something, I'm going to take anything. It was a treaty of friendship because the Crow were recognized as a nation by the United States government. Not as a tribe of Indians, not as a reservation. We were recognized as a nation. One of the very few tribes there was only probably 8 to 10 tribes in the entire United States that were recognized by the United States government as a nation. But anyway, when we signed this treaty here, and he said, where do you live? Well, he says, my Crow people live under my lodge. We as Crow, when we set up our lodge, we use 4 main poles. All of the rest of the tribes use 3 main poles to set up their lodges, but Crow use 4. So we set up one. He says, my one pole sets at the Assahi River, big river, the Missouri River, where the Yellowstone, the Asheda, runs into it. This is up.
A person stands in profile, wearing a light blue shirt with a geometric patterned vest in dark red and white. Behind them is a dark wall with partial text visible and a brass lamp on the left side.
Here on this. My second pole is down here, and it's the gap where the buffalo come through. Spearfish, South Dakota. That's where the second pole was set for the Crow Nation. The third pole was set way down here in the southwest. And it's at a place that is called, that you can visit today. It's the Gurgling Waters, Apa Waters. And it's where the waters are boiling from the ground. It's a beautiful place to go to. Our fourth pole set where the rivers mix. The headwaters of the Missouri River, where the Jefferson, all 3 of the rivers come together here at the 3 Forks. And this is our Crow Nation sets under our lodge, because our lodge is round. If you noticed, the reservation, the nation was in a shape of a heart. And I couldn't figure it out. I studied Father de Schmidt quite a little bit. And Father de Schmidt went back to St. Louis. When he got to St. Louis, they asked him, where have you been? Where'd you come from? He says, I just came from the heart of the Crow Nation. We have to remember that Father de Schmidt drew a good share of the maps of the American West. He was a priest, a Jesuit priest, but yet he had to have a way to finance himself. because the Catholic Church was not financing. The Catholic Church was not financing Father de Smet. Father de Smet was a renegade. Study him. Oh, he's fun. He is fun. But anyway, when he got back to St. Louis, he said he had just came from the heart of the Crow country. When I used the oral stories, this country over here, this is Platte River country. This water all runs into the Bighorn River. This water all runs into the Yellowstone River. This water runs from the Missouri into the Missouri here, into the Yellowstone, and then Yellowstone Park up here. Yeah, Crow Indians at one time, Yellowstone Park, almost by 80% of Yellowstone Park was in the Crow Nation.
A person stands in profile against a plain backdrop, wearing a gray and white collared shirt with a geometric patterned vest in burgundy and navy. Text is partially visible along the bottom of the frame.
We should have kept that and given the rest of the reservation. But no, it's very interesting of the history and the people who went here. But one of the things I always like to talk about the culture. We had artists, and our artists, when they made a painting 1,000 years ago, you can read it today and it tells you a story. That's one of the things I forgot to bring along with me. I was going to bring along some photographs of some of the paintings. And there's one of the things that I find in the paintings when I see them all the time is that they generally have the number 13 marked into it. There's generally 13 little marks. If there's a whole circle of marks, you divide them. They'll divide out into 13. Because the 13 moons, we have 13 full moons in a year. The Indian people use that as their calendar, the 13 full moons. We even had a calendar, believe it or not. The 13 moons on the turtle's back. The next time you see a turtle, count the little squares on his back. There is 13. That is our calendar. That was our calendar. Yes. So, you know, we was doing the same thing as a white man, different way. The other thing that was very interesting was, you know, like I say, you know, the religion part of it is how when we prayed. When it all comes down, we all prayed to the same person up here. When we die, I was buried on the top of the ground because of the fact that if I was buried down under the ground, my spirit can't rise and go up, and I need to do that. And you know, it wasn't until 1894 that the United States government passed a law and said I had to have 5 feet of dirt on my face. Yeah. One of the things that the non-Indian people, I don't use the term of white man very much. I think it's a derogatory term. But I generally say the non-Indian. And one of the things that the non-Indian people did get from the Indian people, you go to any of the cemeteries. You're always buried so you face the east. Indian people were always tried buried so that they could they would face the rising sun. When I set up my lodge, I would set up my lodge, my opening.
A person in a light blue shirt with a geometric pattern vest stands in profile, speaking indoors. Behind them is a dark podium or lectern with partial text visible at the bottom of the frame.
When I sat in the back of my lodge, I would sit there in the morning, and I could sit in my lodge, and I could watch the rising sun from the back of my lodge. So east was a very, very important part of our way. 13, you know, like I say, everybody thinks 13 is a bad number. Not for us. It's great. No. Fact is, I was in Washington, D.C. a couple of years ago, and I was visiting Nick Rahal of West Virginia. And when we were visiting Mr. Rahal, he says, well, you know, this might be a bad time for you to ever probably to do, because we was trying. He's actually put together a bill to try to put protection on cultural sites, historic sites across the nation, Indian and not Indian. But he's getting a lot of flack over it because, I mean, it protects a lot of land. So, but anyway, when we was talking to Mr. Rahal, he says, well, this is my 13th term. He says, this might be the beginning of my 13th term. He says, this might be a bad time. I says, no, this is the most wonderful time for us. I said, because 13 is our good number. And like I say, when you go around the paintings, you will find them always have 13 in some way or another in the paintings. Some of the paintings, I mean, you read them, you get them, and as you see on my belt buckle here, I have lodges beaded into my belt buckle. And the lodge is my home. My home is very, very sacred. My home is my church. Because in American Indian people, we don't go build $1 million building so we got someplace to go on Sunday. Anytime that I go out here, my feet touch the earth and I can see the sky, I'm in my church. I'm in my church. And I go there quite often to do this. But a lot of times, I like to talk a little bit about the prayer. Okay, I do a prayer. Something happened in my life. I don't know, maybe a death, maybe I'm not getting along with people, or somebody got hurt that's very close to me or something like this. I go out to do a prayer, and when I go out to do my prayer, I go before sunrise to where I'm going to do my prayer. I do a prayer twice a year on top of Pompey's Pillar. And I go up there, I have my little place that I can set.
A person wearing a light blue polo shirt with a geometric pattern vest stands indoors, speaking. Behind them is a dark backdrop with partial gold text visible and a brass lamp.
I can sit there the entire day. People don't even know that I'm there. But I go before sunrise, and I don't come back down off until sunset at night. And when I up there, I pray for what is going on, happening in my life. But I don't sit there and pray the entire day. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, what is the bad things that's happening in my life? What is the way that I can fix this? It's more. It's in our belief is that we need to know who we are within. We need to know who we are. As long as we know who we are, we will do well. But the day that we don't, that we find that we've lost ourselves and we became, maybe we start drinking, maybe we start using drugs, maybe we do, we start doing things. But you got to remember who you are and take care of that person. As long as you always know exactly who you are, you will do well. But when I like to talk a little bit about Lewis and Clark now. Lewis and Clark entered Crow country right here. Right here. They traveled up Crow country right through here. Crow people were on the Sun River, which is west of Great Falls, the Two Medicine River. Crow people were living up there at that time. There was Crow people living on the Milk River, which is way up here. But Lewis and Clark, they entered Crow country right here, traveled up here, and out the other side of Crow country down at Three Forks. Then they returned. Lewis made this entire trip back. Clark made his trip down to Yellowstone. There was one of the groups went down through the Missouri River here again, and Pryor made the journey with the horses across over here on these yellow lines. So they traveled about 1,700 miles and never spoke to a crow. And a lot of people wonder, so why did they travel all these miles right through the middle of the Crow people? They seen signs of the Indians all the way. They never met a crow. For one reason only. Mosquitoes. These crows, they was smart enough that you get back away from the rivers into...
A person in a light blue shirt with a geometric patterned vest stands indoors, facing left. Behind them is a dark banner with partial gold text visible. A brass lamp is on the left side of the frame.
The hills, the high mountains, you get away from the mosquitoes. And mosquito time, they left the river country. This was the time when Lewis and Clark was doing all of their things in Crow country, and they stayed on the rivers. They stayed down in the mosquitoes. They got ate up. The crow were gone. What was very interesting at this point right in here, where they made the canoes. They camped there 3 days. Lewis and Clark did, or Clark did in his group. Within 12 miles of where Clark was camped, there was a crow sundance going on at the very same time. There was thousands of Indians there. It was on the Clark's Fork River, as we know it today. But then, to the Crow people, the Cheyenne, the Sioux, the Blackfeet, this is the river where we all come to dance. This meant all of the tribes of Indians come there, to the Clark's Fork River. They would do sun dances and they would hunt. They would take care of their hides, their meat, and get a year's supply of meat. And then they would start venturing back home. Nez Perce. I mean, there was many tribes. Shoshone, all of the tribes would come there because the Clark's Fork River, we didn't fight on that river. When we all came to that river, we know that that was a place that you could sit down beside your enemy, break bread, eat, hunt together. Maybe we even got together and we went off and raided somebody's horses. See, we never stole a horse. I want you to know that. We never ever stole a horse. We captured a horse. Because to capture a horse was a very honorable thing for a Crow. Yes. To capture a horse is a very honorable thing. When I wanted to become a chief, I had to do 4 things. To capture a horse from within an enemy's camp was one of the things I had to do. Within the camp. That didn't mean that he was running on the hillside out here. I snuck into the camp and I cut the rawhide that was holding that horse. My friend Mike, he's a Sioux over here. Mike's laying in his lodge. He's sound asleep, but he has that cord tied around his belly because he don't want to lose his favorite war horse.
A person wearing a light blue polo shirt with a geometric beaded design stands indoors, speaking. Behind them is a dark banner with gold text and what appears to be a brass lamp.
I sneak into his camp and I steal his horse. See? But really, in Crow, I captured that horse because I did a very honorable, brave thing. I took his horse while he was hanging on to the end of the cord. Yes. And so when we got when Clark came down the river, we didn't get the first 9 that was taken further west of the Three Forks. It was 9 that was taken over there, and the Blackfeet claimed them 9 horses that was taken. I want you to know, these guys had Shoshone and Nez Perce horses. Shoshone got most of their horses, a good share of their horses from the Nez Perce, because the Nez Perce immediately started breeding horses to get a certain type of a horse. They wanted a particular horse, the Appaloosa. So they started breeding to get the Appaloosa. That's where the Appaloosa came from. And but they were strong horses, small horses, very, very good horses. Us Crow knew a good horse when we seen one, you know. And here comes Clark down the Yellowstone River. You know, he's just rambling along, and he's making maps, and he's doing all of these good things, you know, that he's supposed to be doing. But us Crow are sitting up on the hillside counting horses. And, you know, and one of the things that in all my years of studying, the military might protect their encampment, but they would put their horses over here on the hillside 3 miles away to graze. You know, so they were just very easy to get to, so we would just come down and we would relieve him of his horses. And according to the diaries, Clark left his horses approximately 1 mile from the camp where he was making the canoes. We found a site that pretty much fits the entire diary as to where the horses was being kept, because it says that from that position there, it was 1 mile, approximately 1 mile to the river crossing where the Indians who took the horses crossed the Yellowstone River and going south down into Crow country. And so we pretty much believe that we found the spot pretty much where the horses was being held. But no, they was nice horses, and you know, we was good the first time. You know, we only took half of them. You know, and doggone it, he went on down the river.
A person wearing a light blue shirt with a geometric pattern vest stands in profile against a plain wall. Partial text visible at the bottom suggests an official or institutional setting.
You know, and they got down there where Billings is today, and that's where they crossed the river with the last 25 head of horses that they was left. We'd already took 24 and a colt. And when they crossed the river, Pryor traveled about 6-7 hours, and he was at a place called Fly Creek today. Fly Creek starts from a basin. This basin is large like this, 200,000 acres in it. But it only has one little dry stream that goes out of it to drain it. One of these big old Montana cloudbursts come along, and here was Pryor. He was camped on this little dry creek, and all of a sudden, I mean, he has a roaring river between him and his horses. And so he spends a few hours trying to get his horse herd back together, but when he went to bed, he was tired and he was sleepy, so he really went to sleep, and he got up in the morning, and when he got up in the morning, he just didn't have any more horses. One of the Crow guys wanted to let him know who got the horses, so he left a moccasin. And so we had a pretty good herd of horses. But now I'm going to tell you a story about these horses. The Crow horses, the horses that the Crow took from the Clark, they were taken so easily. There was no danger of any kind in us taking the horses. So in our Crow tradition, we could not keep, if I'm the person that took the horses, I could not keep the horses. I had to give them away as gifts. So, you know, really, you know, Clark, he made a lot of Crow Indian people very, very happy, because we gave away 50 horses, 49 horses and a colt as gifts. Because in Crow tradition, we were not allowed to keep the horses because there was no risk to our life. We could only keep a horse for ourselves that we risked our life to get. But anyway, when after that, you know, then the Crow, they just took off and took the horses, and they went kind of into the southwest. Mike and I have been working on a trail that goes into Bighorn Canyon National Park called the Bad Pass Trail. These horses was headed right for the Bad Pass Trail. Bad Pass Trail is an area that when you walk, you step over this rock and you stumble over the next, and next step you have a rock.
A person in profile stands indoors wearing a light blue shirt with a geometric patterned vest in burgundy and white. Behind them is a dark podium or lectern with gold text visible on a banner.
Roll under your foot. I mean, it's a bad trail, but it's a trail that's probably 10,000 years old, and very, very well marked. And it's marked with piles of rock. Some of the rock piles in Bad Pass Trail, they are 10, 15 feet apart from here to the other end of the camp. They may be 5 or 6 piles of rock. They will be this high, probably a ton or two of rock in this pile. But you know what every one of them rocks are? Every one of them rocks is a prayer. As I'm going down the trail, I pick up this stone. I carry this rock. It becomes part of me. My sweat gets on this rock. I carry this rock for a while, and I talk to this rock. And then when I get to where the places where the prayer piles of rocks are, I get up to this pile of rocks, and I spit on the rock. I put part of me on it, my saliva. I put the rock in the pile. When I put the rock in the pile, I say, "Thank you, Grandfather, for the good journey behind me. Give me a good journey forward." And I go on. The next Indian person that comes along behind me does exactly the same thing. I can take you to piles of rock down in the Crow country that is growing yet today, because in our belief we cannot go past these piles of rock, and we have to stop and do prayer, say a prayer. Sandy and I, one time, we was going up into the Pryor Mountains, and she was driving along, and I said, "Stop! We need to stop and do the prayer." "Well, we'll do it on the way back." And I said, "No, you got to do it now." Sandy and I went up onto the Pryor Mountains. We spent the entire trail in the Pryor Mountains. Had a wonderful day. We was coming back down off of the Pryor Mountains that night. We got within 300 feet of that rock pile. She blew a right front tire, just blew the whole side of it out. I didn't stop and say my prayer on the way up and ask for the good journey. Yes. No, we believe in this very, very strongly. We do it yet today. But that's why I like to tell you a little bit about Lewis and Clark when they came here. I mean, we had people who were painting the history on the rocks, the paintings that are on the rocks today.
A person wearing a light blue polo shirt with a geometric design stands indoors, looking off to the side. Behind them is a dark banner with partial gold lettering visible.
That are 1,000 years old. Right now, we've got near 400 located on the Yellowstone River and its tributaries. When you sit there and you look at these, and I don't come up here and say, "Okay, I'm going to paint on the rock. 5 minutes, I'm going down the trail." No, it takes me maybe years to choose my spot, because I want absolute perfect light at a certain time of the year, things such as this. I go up here, I abrade the wall till it's perfectly smooth. I take a black river stone. Almost every abrasive stone that we've found so far is a black river stone. So they pack this rock a long ways to do their paintings. But they abrade this wall perfectly smooth. And these walls, in this one particular spot that has been carbon dated, 950 to 1,000 years old. This rock today is absolutely perfectly smooth sandstone. They abrade this perfectly smooth. They would have put a lot of house painters out of business if the house painters could figure out how they made the paint, because they paint their paintings on the walls. The paintings we think are just something, but no, that painting is part of me. It tells a part of a story. It tells something about my people. And some of the paintings, one of the paintings that we find, it has a circle. It has, inside of the circle, coming to the middle, the shape of lodges all the way around in series of 13. There is 13 lodges to make the circle. On the bottom of each lodge, on the outside of the circle, there is 13 fringes. But the lodge is our home, is our church. The lodge means people. That's where the people live. So that particular painting is very sacred to us because it tells us of the people. Okay, there's another one there, and that's right beside it. Excuse me. But there's another painting that's right there beside of it, and the painting that's right beside there.
A person in profile wears a gray and white collared shirt with a geometric patterned vest. They stand indoors against a gray wall, with partial text visible on a dark banner behind them.
It's got what we call a two-headed water monster on it. Anytime that we find something that has two heads in the paintings, it means one thing. Or actually, it means two things, actually. Good and bad. Good and evil. One head is for good, one head is bad. And I'll tell you a little story that took time about in the late 1800s. Chief Plentycoos had been on a raiding party. We went down in Nebraska, and he got some good Sioux horses. I mean, you know, our neighbors always had good horses, and Crow always needed more. Because to Crow, horses were wealth. The more horses I had, the wealthier I was. Because I could always trade horses for anything that I wanted. But anyway, when Plentycoos was returning, he got back to the Bighorn River. The Bighorn River was being flooded. Man, he got to the river, and oh man, we can't get across, and we're only a day and a half journey from home. Good long day, we could probably make it. They didn't know what quite to do. Big Shoulder Blade. Big Shoulder Blade was a very tall man. At that particular time, most the Crow people were 6 feet and more taller. Very, very, very big people. Not fat, just tall, thin people. But anyway, Big Shoulder Blade, he was a very big man. He was riding a very, very large horse. And he said, well, I'll go into the river. And he says, I'll find the way to get across. So he went and chose his place where he entered the river. Immediately when he got into the river, Big Shoulder Blade and his horse was caught by the water, and it started washing him down. So immediately, Big Shoulder Blade, he starts singing a chant. This chant song, it is to the good and the evil of the water monster. He's chanting and he's praying that the good water monster will get a hold of him, and the good water monster will take him to the land. The bad water monster will take him into the water. This is the belief. This painting is on the wall.
A person stands in profile, wearing a light blue polo shirt with a geometric patterned vest in burgundy and white. Behind them is a dark panel with partial gold lettering visible. A brass lamp stands to the left.
1,000 years old. That story is 1,000 years old. The other painting is there. It was just of a lodge. But the painting that's in the center, the ball that is in the middle of it, is green. Do you know that in the state of Montana, there is only 5 paintings that have green in them? One is over here at Helena along the lake. The other 4 are on the Clarks Fork River. The other 4 are all within probably less than 30 feet of distance apart. No, and so green was something that was kind of hard, but we feel that green was for earth, the mother, the grasses, because the earth turns green. So that's part of that particular prayer that Big Shoulder Blade was singing. When the Crow people would travel, like I say, they would mark the trails with the markers, and they had this highway system. You can go out right around. I can go around here just about any place in the country out here, and I can choose a valley, a river, and I will find a trail that is marked along that river, valley, maybe a ridge. One of the things about the American Indian people was they were never afraid of anything that I can see. I was never afraid of anything that I could see. But I was afraid of what I couldn't see. That was what was bothered me more than anything. So when I traveled, most of the time I traveled on a high ridge. I could see for miles. Nobody could sneak up on me. No, that's the way, and that's where we find most all of the trails. And we've followed these trails across Wyoming, Montana. I have a friend who followed the same particular trails in Colorado and New Mexico. No, I could go out here probably within one day in this area right here and find the trail right here that takes you to Mandan. You know why? The Blackfeet, the Crow.
A person stands in profile against a plain wall, wearing a light blue polo shirt with a geometric patterned vest in burgundy and white. Behind them is part of a dark panel with gold text visible at the bottom of the frame.
That's just shown. We're nomads. We don't stop to plant, to grow. The Mandan down here on the river, they grew the stuff that we want. The English, the French, everybody brought their stuff here. The Mandan. When they brought it to Mandan, all of the tribes come here. There is many, many trails that come to Mandan. Am I getting out of time? Okay. I always talk to the last second, so. You know, that's one thing I always tell people, you know, about Crow history. We don't have short songs. We don't have short prayers. We don't have short stories. Because in our songs, they talk about our history and our life. Our prayers talk about our history and our life. Our stories talk about our history and our life. And as an oral historian, I have to tell you in detail as to what's going on. This is why I'm talking about something and all of a sudden I'm over here talking about something else. Because I have to tell you the details. Because otherwise you're going to get the story messed up. You need the details. And that's how an oral historian is taught. I've been taught all my life that when I tell a story, I have to tell the details. But the Lewis and Clark venture was interesting to the American Indian people. I call it the beginning of the end. It was the beginning of the American Indian way of life. See, I call you a Native American. You are Native Americans. I am a Crow American Indian. Columbus gave me the name of an Indian when he came. And I'm proud to be called an Indian. I'm always very proud to be called an Indian because I'm very, very proud of my heritage. And I've studied my heritage my entire life. I just turned 66 years old 2 days ago. Yeah. And I've got 60 years of history behind me. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you for sharing your history and your culture and your accumulated years of knowledge with us. We appreciate that very much. Here in the 10-Minute Voices, there are regular programs every hour on the hour.